Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever avoiding Shorty, and we're going to wrap up our week with some American Gothic horror. Yeah! I do like horror, I like American Gothic. This is very much something which I'm going to be interested in. And like some other stuff I've read recently, it feels like it's scratching a bit of an itch I've got. It's doing something very clever with a contemporary story idea, which I like. And to give you some information on that one, I'm probably going to have to spoil this. Now, what I'm going to do first off is talk about the general writing, general artwork. So if you want to find out that, that's cool. And I'll give you a big old warning before I start talking about the plot, because there is something that's going to happen where it's not necessarily a plot twist that's coming. It's going to totally make you reevaluate the entire story from the beginning, but at least you won't get any spoilers for it. So I will give you a heads up when we get to that. So first off, we can talk about the artwork. I have to check how to pronounce this artist's name, and I realised, having just said that, I'm going to potentially mispronounce this. If the artist of this comic book watches at any point, please correct me. I'm never going to learn unless somebody tells me I did it wrong. Letitia Cadonici, I think, is the artist on this one, and that name rings a bell for me. Yeah, it's House of Slaughter, if I remember rightly, which I think really works quite nicely. It's another one of those stories where it's mainly it's set in a very, very similar world to our world, with some kind of creepy monster-based horror going on. Feels very similar to the kind of vibe we've got going here, and it works really nicely. We get really good, slightly stylized characters. The world is slightly off from what we expect it to be, and that's fine. It makes things make more sense when they go weird. But there's also a really nice attention to detail. When we see the various locations that this story takes place in, the neo-Gothic architecture is fantastic. There's very much an Addams Family vibe to a lot of the houses, which is great. I think that's probably far more common in America than it is in these neck of the woods, but it still looks really good. When you get internal shots of houses as well, they look fantastic. There's spiral staircases leading up to loft rooms with stained glass windows and light coming through windows with small pane glass. It looks amazing, and it adds so much to the sense of place and the sense of atmosphere they're going for. The town they're basing this in is very American as well. I imagine there's a lot of things which I'm not quite picking up, and being quite clearly British, but it also gives it an opportunity to build up a little bit of tension of the banality of living in a small town America with some vaguely creepy and some then overtly creepy things that happen. This is done quite nicely when we first meet a character which screams witch to you when you see it. She is a little old lady sat on the grass with a fairy ring of toadstools around her and glasses of small bowls of what would be curdled milk around her. But instantly we're kind of put off kilter a little bit by the mother of this story coming in with a toddler who thinks there's a cat because he's got the bowls of milk, and this toddler is brilliant, delicious with occasional words of dialogue, just words she knows, and she's trying to explain her feelings on the situation, basically kitty. But the mum just takes it perfectly in a stride. She doesn't think little old lady, black shawl, speaking kind of weirdly about neighbours and everyone like herself. She doesn't take that as a weird thing, because she doesn't know she's in a story. This character exists in her own world and has not encountered the supernatural, doesn't think that creepy things are lurking in the woods, just a woman. And she doesn't do anything other than talk to this woman as if she would any other person she met, and I really like that. Writing-wise, really good. Okay, now we're going to get some story stuff. So, look away now, don't really mind if you turn off here. We always get people who just watch the first bit anyway, so it's fine. And we get some spoilers, because this is, this bit isn't really a spoiler, it's a very queer comic book. It is exceptionally queer. There is trans and either bisexual or pansexuality. I've never been 100% sure on this one, and speaking as a sit-here white guy, I don't want to make any assumptions, but it's really nice to see these kind of representations done, and they're handled really effectively. And it also means when we have a mix of a trans story and a changeling fairy story, my mind went, oh yes, please. This is exactly the kind of allegorical storytelling which I really like. I think it's handled quite effectively. The only criticism I have, though, and this is over the story as a whole, not just this representation issue, it is, I think this first issue should have been longer. I think it should be an extra half dozen pages, maybe even more, to build up a sense of dread and at least sense of otherworldliness. Because there is certain hints of it, but when we finally get to the overt creepiness at the end, it kind of comes at you fast. The older daughter of the family is sat on the stoop reading on her phone, and some very odd people start coming and trying to get into the house. Both of them using the name Tom Shock, if I remember correctly. But then she is just grabbed. Like, literally, she's trying to get in the house and they break into the front door and grab her and run off with her. And it feels almost unearned. Now, there's certainly hints of it there. Some of the creepiness is just due to banality, which I quite like. But this end moment does feel a bit much. But then, when the dad chases the daughter and finds her being dragged into some bushes, goes back to the house to notify the family what's going on, the daughter is sat there with a very different expression on her face, happy to call him dad. She wasn't going to do it before, with the toy cat that the younger daughter has, and the creepiness ramps up perfectly. Now, One last thing, I'm going over my 5 minutes here, I do apologise. I was kind of concerned because, as aforementioned cishet white guy, when we're doing trans stories and allegorical trans stories, I sometimes think that people like Jessie Gender, wonderful YouTuber, she did a great thing on the trans intersex story of the Orville, and she basically did talk about the risks of using allegories for real life issues. And I was a bit like, okay, from my point of view, I love it as a story beat, I think it's a really clever way of looking at the situation, but could this potentially be a risky kind of thing? So I had a quick look on who the author of this story is, named Jude Ellison S. Doyle, and suffice to say, a very quick Google made me realise that this person is completely in control of what's going on. They're going to do the best that they're going to do, and I am not worried whatsoever about any problematic issues. And I think you should go and check this out. It's thoroughly enjoyable. Really nice bit of Gothic American Gothic horror. Absolutely fantastic. That's it for me for the week. I'm done. I'm going to be having my weekend and enjoy myself soon, and I hope you all have a great weekend too. Until I see you again, look after each other, everyone. Bye-bye.